Hi, I'm Mikey.
I'm Jack.
Welcome to Crank HQ, our basement HQ.
We like to call it our Steve Jobs' garage of a head office.
So, we're the two founders of Cranklite Lager. Crank was founded in March, and we hope to become an event beer that could take over on campus and near campus events. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we quickly had to pivot. Now, we're focused on becoming the beer for young adults. Beer made by young adults, for young adults.
So since we last applied in July, a lot has happened. We're in 14 beer stores and multiple different restaurants. We've sold over 60,000 beers and have revenue of almost $100,000. We've done this also while getting on the global news, the Oakville Beaver, Ivy Entrepreneurship Podcast, and much more. And while we did this with zero marketing spend, which we find pretty impressive, we're always looking forward to future growth.
Yeah, and we think this program will be great for us because we really want to find a way to expand geographically and start outsourcing our distribution so we can grow and increase our brand awareness. We have demand for the product. We just need to be able to get it out there for them.
Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity, and
seize up.
Welcome, guys, to my show, Unwritten, Stories of Significance. I've held it back on Instagram for quite a while, and this show, I've rebranded it. It was Future Prospects, but now it's Unwritten, Stories of Significance. The reason why I rebranded the name is because the multiple shows that we have produced through Rogers Television has been stories of significance. And sitting in the car one day, I was rattling my brains, and I got to be honest, with my husband and my son, Sean and Michael, and I'm saying, what kind of name can I come up with? Right out of Michael's mouth, he just said, Unwritten. And that was it. Because these stories are out there, but they're unwritten. They're not shared. They're not told. And that's exactly what this is going to do for you. It's going to be stories, unwritten stories of significance, stories of significance to kick you in the butt, to get you going on where you're going in life. Youth and mentors within their life. With no further ado, I want to introduce to you a wonderful story, unwritten story, by the way, of Cranklite. Two young students graduated from Western. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I just want to introduce you to them, let them roll out their story. Why Cranklite? What's it all about? So with no further ado, I'd like to welcome Jack Jelinek and Michael Woolfson. Hi, guys.
Hey, Joy.
Hi, Joy.
Hi there. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Great, thank you. How are you?
Oh, you're welcome, hon. Now, I know we did a little bit of promo there, our video that you took in the basement, and I'm going to talk about that. But the only reason why I did it, because it was kind of unique basement video that you did. You brought the camera where somebody was following you downstairs. Yeah. We were talking about a little bit about your application history on Cranklite. But before we delve into this amazing unwritten story, who are you? So let me introduce, let's go with Michael.
Yeah, so I'm Michael. I'm 23, recent Western graduate, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cranklite Lager with my partner here, Jack Jelinek.
Awesome. Jack, go ahead, my love.
Yeah, so I'm Jack Jelinek. I'm also 23, met Mikey at Western. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Crank. So Michael and I, was funny when we were dividing the task between COO and CEO. We had no idea what we were going to do. So I think for the first year and a half, we were both just co-founder. We didn't know who was doing which job. So we just got those titles.
Awesome, honey. Okay, so I met you guys through Instagram. And I just seen all your postings, and I seen the unique branding of Cranklite. And I'm so happy and proud to wear the merch. Can't say merchandise, so it makes me sound old. So I got to say merch, all right? And
yeah. Before
I get into the story, I want you just to share with us how you met. So anybody can start. Jack, anybody can start. How did you both meet?
Mikey, I'll let you take this one.
Go for it.
Sure. So I'm sure we saw each other in our first 2 years at Western. We were in the same kind of graduating class, started at the same time. But when we really met was in third year. We went to the Ivy Business School at Western. And in that school, you kind of have sections of 80 people that you have every class with. And we happened to be in the same section, in the same class, immediately got along, became friends, and kind of that's how we met. And that's, I guess, where the story of Crank begins.
All right. Now, speaking with Jack did the pre-interview because unfortunately Michael was so busy he couldn't attend. But long story short, he brought in this portion of the story. So I'm just going to waken you up a little bit, just a little bit here, is that you wrote the business and then you approached Jack with it. Am I right?
Yeah. So yeah, correct. Exactly. So I think it was kind of summer after third year. I got a job in Toronto, and on the side was helping a craft beer kind of startup company sell beer to restaurants. That's kind of how I got the first taste of the industry, I'd say. And during that time, kind of came up with this idea that there is no real, I guess, high quality craft beer that's priced at a value price and could be targeted at university students. Originally wanted it to make it a dollar beer, but that was pretty tough to do. So beginning of fourth year, when a lot of our peers were starting to look for jobs, look what they're doing after university, one day I approached Jack and I said, I have this idea. It's just an idea right now, and I know your skills. I know what you're great at, and I'll really only do it if you're interested. And if this is something you want to do. And he said, okay, like, give me some time. Let me look into it. And I expected him to take some time to look into it. And then an hour or a couple hours later, I get a text saying I'm in. And I guess Jack can maybe say from his side, but.
You got it, my love, because this is why I got to share this story on Unwritten Stories of Significance. Go for it, Jack.
Yeah, well, I was recruiting just like most Ivy students for, I was doing the investment banking route and a little bit of consulting. So very much not the beer industry. And I had no thoughts as to entering the beer space or alcohol industry at all. But then, yeah, Mikey approached me and I thought, you know what, might as well take a look at it. Give me a week to think about it. Then I think I went to my next class and I don't even know what it was. And I was just Googling trends in the industry, ways to grow, what's going on in the Ontario craft beer space. And I was like, you know what, I think there's an opportunity here to focus on the university demographic that is pretty well forgotten in terms of targeting. And who better to do it than us, university students? So I sent Mikey text, and my dad's an entrepreneur and my grandfather and aunts and uncles. And I thought, this is perfect. This is right in my DNA. I got to jump in. Sometimes it's fate, and they always say it's not what you know, but who you know. So I'm so thankful that Mikey went to me and said that he'd do it with me.
That's awesome, hon. Michael, I always dig deep. So Unwritten Stories of Significance, I always like to get to the meat and potatoes because it helps the viewers understand who we have in front of them and the real story, the story behind it, the significant part. Why did you go after Jack? Why didn't you go for anybody else? Why did you go to him?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I don't even think I've ever said this to Jack, but I kind of came up with the idea one day when I was walking in Toronto trying to make sales to restaurants and it not going well. And I was thinking of, and then that's what kind of when I thought of this idea. And I thought the person, as I said before, I thought the person I do this with Jack is only with Jack. And the reason being is because I saw in university, he was kind of his president of his fraternity, head of some clubs, and he was really able to organize an event, get people excited about an event. And I thought he could take those skills and really do that with a product. We've worked together in group projects and worked really well together. So I think that helped as well. I knew he was a smart guy and would really be able to do a good mix, which I think you need in this industry of working hard, playing hard a bit. And honestly, everyone likes Jack. So I'm like, he's the perfect salesman, the perfect person to kind of be with me, the face of the brand. And it's worked out pretty well since. So I'm glad I did think of him.
That's why I love asking these questions, because it brings out another side and things you probably haven't said to somebody. So that's the reason why I did that. That makes you feel good, right, Jack?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Mikey.
Mikey, okay, I got to correct that. So would you prefer me to throughout this whole interview, would you rather Michael or Mikey?
Well, yeah, I try to go by Michael to try and be more business formal, but I end up introducing myself as Mikey by accident. So just go with Mikey. It's sticking now, I guess.
All right. Whichever one comes out.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Thanks, hon. So I've heard that side now of you choosing Jack. So Jack, when Michael approached you on this business idea, it took you 1 week. So you started to Google all over the place because business, like, okay, what can I do with this?
Yeah.
How did you feel about Michael approaching you?
I was honored to have been approached by Mikey, and I know that we were good friends in the classroom, and I knew that he was very entrepreneurial and he's always thinking of business ideas. And so I'm the same way. And so when he came to me, I thought, wow, this is awesome. I've got someone who's excited about something that's not the traditional route, because everyone was very traditional in what they were thinking of going into in terms of careers. And then Mikey, in terms of his personality and his network, we do come from different social groups. Like he's from Dundas, I'm from Oakville, and we are from different groups as well at campus. And I know that our network combined was pretty wide and vast. So I thought, oh, this is awesome. It's not like I'm starting this with my immediate friend who's in the same fraternity or in the same group. I'm starting it with someone who's from a sort of a different background, which really helps when pushing a product like this. And Michael's a lot more, I'm going back and forth. I was going to say Mikey.
So I think it's the first time you've said Michael.
Yeah, the first time I've called him Michael in my entire life. So Mikey is more analytical than I am too. I think our skill sets are pretty complementary in terms of what we can bring to the table. And I knew that Mikey's one of those people who's not going to boast about how smart he is when it comes to Excel or the nitty gritty things. But he's got that in his back pocket, and I think enjoys it more than I do. I don't know if I want to speak for you, Mikey, but I really saw that and thought, wow, combine our two skill sets together, it could be a good chance at going well.
That's powerful, because I want to ask all these other questions within the other segment, but I'm going to ask you this while it's on my head here, right? Because I don't have a prompter. Everything is in my mind. Nice. Is how did your parents feel that you finished your undergrad at Western with Ivy League business, okay? Honors, letters. What's the letters? How does the letters go again? It is... Sorry?
HBA.
HBA. Okay, I got to brand that because you worked hard for it, guys. You worked hard for it. I know. How did your parents feel when you approached them with this idea and they're thinking, okay, you just got out of school and you're starting a business?
Yeah.
Anybody can
Jack,
jump
do you want
in.
to go first?
Sure, yeah, I could take that. Well, I think it helps my dad being entrepreneurial and my mom as well, in her own way. My mom's a teacher, so I think she's all about that learning side and
right.
expanding your horizons. So both of them together thought, wow, this is a pretty cool thought. And at that time, it was September of our final year, so it's still a full year to go. So I don't even know if they thought we were completely serious or if it was going to be an idea that died out in a week and a half.
Right.
And I think they were just as surprised as we were when our launch came by so quickly, and all of a sudden we had beers in front of us, like 10,000 of them. And they were like, wow. This is very real. And I think that is getting too far ahead too quickly. But when Mikey's family started having to load cases and cases and cases into their garage, I think that's probably when they realized, wow, these two idiots are actually going after it.
So listen, hold that thought, because that's a great introduction into the next segment. We'll be right back, guys, with Cranklite. Welcome back to Unwritten, Stories of Significance with Cranklite. Guys, that was a phenomenal first segment. Really, really good. Informative, really, really good. Talking about your relationship, and all of a sudden now, students going to listen to it and say, okay, they got a degree and they started up their own business. Like, hello. But we left it on the part of Jack introducing it to his parents and the beer arriving at their house, or whoever house it was. Right, Jack? Whose house did it arrive at?
It was Mike's house.
All right. And there was a picture that reflects that, you guys sitting on a bunch of beer. Like, you know what I mean? So, Jack,
yeah.
So, Michael, let's embrace your side of it now, hon. You come out of Western University, you've earned it, worked very hard, both of you, for it. What did your parents feel like when you brought that news to them?
Yeah, I think my situation's a little different than Jack's. My mom, I guess, also works for the school board, and my dad's in healthcare. So they don't really have a business background, not nearly as much as Jack's family. So I think they're not used to kind of this, I guess, high risk, high reward kind of endeavor. And then, but they definitely supported me. But I think the thing, they're like, really, you have to choose beer out of all things you could have started a business with. But they know I've always loved beer, so they're like, it fits you well. And then, yes, but since then, maybe after the initial shock and seeing all the beers we had in their garage and in our home, they've been super supportive. So that's been great since then.
That's awesome, hon. That is, wow. Yeah, I would have been shocked as a parent too, if our son Michael came home with a ton of beer. But you know what I mean? I believe in the youth. I believe in the youth, and I genuinely love you guys. I really do, and I can say that on air. Okay.
Thank you.
Talked about everything in the first. Let's delve into the creation of Cranklite. Let's delve into it. So you built this business. You started it in 2019. So anybody can jump in.
Yeah, I'd say September 2018,
2019.
Yeah, the idea was there. And at that point, we were both in fraternities, and we thought we're trying to think of a name. And I think it was between Cranklite Lager and another name, and we had no idea. I don't even remember what that name is. And we asked a group of 60, take a vote. Which name? How should we name our company? And I think Cranklite won 60-0. The other didn't even get a vote. So we knew right then and there that was our name, Cranklite Lager. And the reason why we picked crank is because crank is a word that we use in everyday lingo at school. Are you going to go crank tonight? Get cranked, crank it up, let's crank, all of it. And there was a tent party that my fraternity was throwing called Crankapalooza. So there's a lot of crank going on in terms of our vocabulary. So we stuck with it. And I think the name is probably one of the better things we've done as a business. We were really, really happy with our name.
Wow. Okay. Michael, you want to jump in on your side, hon?
Yeah, no, I think I honestly don't even remember who came up with it or if it was one of us two or one of our friends, but I remember it was honestly easy. It was one of those things where someone kind of says the name and it just clicked, and we're like, we'll make sure with other people we have two. But I think we knew right away that that was the name that kind of we wanted to go with, and I'm happy we did.
All right. So 2019, correct? 2019? Yeah. All right. So I've read your story on everything that you've sent me, but the viewers haven't. So 2019, everybody's partying hard, right? Yeah. At December, boom, what happens in March 2020?
Yeah. So we had our launch party scheduled for St. Patrick's Day, March 2020, AKA like the day the earth stood still as it relates to COVID. And we had our first batch of beers being brewed and finished for 2 days before, 10,000 beers. And because that was our launch party, it was a 4,000 person event at Western. Because that launch party was on that day, we had no time to run a test batch beforehand. So we couldn't even taste the beer before we ended up brewing 10,000. So until 2 days before the event, when we went and picked it up with our friend's pickup truck in London, who we just borrowed, we said, we'll give you a case of beer if we're allowed to use your truck, where we picked up the beers and we tried it. And it was actually like the beer itself was hot. I've never had hot beer, like hot off the press, because it was just finished being brewed and canned. It was so rushed. So the first sips we had of it, it was hot beer. So it tasted terrible, I'll be dead honest. And we thought, what have we done? But thank God it was just the temperature that made it taste like that. And I've never had a hot beer since. Like, I'm not saying warm, like I mean hot.
It was hot. Okay, can I read it back a little bit? Okay, yeah. Michael, just asking here now but this is awesome stuff, guys, but I just want to kind of read it back a little bit. When you created the beer, what process did you have to go through? Like, it didn't just arrive. Like, how did it go? Yeah,
so I think similar to what Jack said, so kind of September to December of that year, so 2019, that was kind of our ideating research, looking into options of what we wanted to do. And then we realized, okay, we're going to kick off in March. We kind of got to kick it into high gear. So first step, we have to kind of find a brewing partner that we could work with and help us build up the recipe, make the can, etc. So we ended up working with Equals Brewing Company in London. That's kind of where we started. They helped us build up the recipe. So what we did was that we actually ended up almost going and getting every beer possible and doing tastings with them. Like in between class, Jack and I would get someone to drive us there so we could do all the tastings, taste all these beers, tell them what we liked, what we didn't like, and use that to kind of create the recipe. And then that was able to be brewed. And then from the can side, we actually got a student artist to help us design the logo and the can and the quote and everything we kind of have on there, and use that to create that. I actually remember we had like a grad trip and I was away in a different country phoning the canning people saying we need it by this date and playing for it, just kind of figuring it out as we go. But It came together in time, I guess not for our launch party because that never happened, as I guess we'll go into, but that was kind of the process of getting going.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, my love. When did you know it tastes good? When did you know? When did you know? What's the word? New know. I haven't even drank anything yet. I mean, I have, but not now. But
yeah, I've had too many cranks. No, I'm kidding.
yes.
I think we knew probably March 16th that it tasted good.
Wow.
16th, 2020.
March 16th.
Yeah.
So COVID hadn't come yet then. COVID wasn't here yet.
COVID was a discussion, and that was March 16th, I'd say, at noon. And by 4 p.m. that day, the event was canceled.
So how much beer did you order? How much beer was there?
10,000 beers. And we had pre-sold all of them. So we had brewed the batch, and we were paying equals with the money that we were getting from the event. And they had agreed to pay for the beers before they actually had them, so we could not have to use our own funds.
Right.
And then because the event was canceled, we lost the funds for the beer, and we'd called Equals and said, hey, we don't have any of the money for the 10,000 beers. The event just been canceled. COVID's here. And they said, like, too bad, guys. Like, this is not the classroom anymore. You have 24 hours to find the money. So we were like, oh God. And that's when we realized maybe we made a mistake going into our own business. Right.
Oh, you felt like that, eh? You felt like that.
Totally, because we had done so much work to get ready and so much work for the past year to make sure that we had a good name, the recipe was good, the branding was good, we had an event, we had the funds, everything. Mm-hmm. And in not even 20 minutes, some pandemic can shut everything down that we didn't see coming.
Character building, hon.
They always teach us to kind of have plans ready for anything and be ready for anything, but we weren't expecting a 2 year and a half long global pandemic to start right as we launch. But
yeah.
Wow. So you got 10,000 beers.
Yeah.
So how in God's name did you move that? Like, I can hide a pair of shoes in the back of my car and tell my husband, Sean, that I bought it 2 years ago. But how did you hide that? Like, I mean, how did you get rid of it? Like, what was the plan?
Yeah. So we ended up convincing Equals that we could we pay for half the beer, not all 10,000, because we don't have anywhere to store it. We're not equipped for this. We don't have a truck. And they said, okay, you can pay for half of the beer now. So we went out and we pre-sold a bunch of merch. We got out some money from friends and family and from our own savings, and were able to raise enough within the 24 hours to pay for half of the batch, which we then picked up and stored at our fraternity houses, which is the worst place to store beer.
Why, Michael? Why is it the worst place? I'm going back and forth because I'm trying to share the platform.
Yeah.
A lot of our friends asking, free samples, which wasn't the worst way to get the word out there, but a lot of people, especially stuck inside the beginning of COVID, a lot of people trying to get their hands on it.
Yeah.
Okay, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that was when, and then they locked down everything. So my family was away on vacation in Georgia in the US, and my sister goes to McGill. My brother also is at Western. And my sister was driving in to meet us in London. So at least we could be together, because they were closing down the borders. So my parents couldn't get back. So they said, we can't get back. You have to come down to us. So we hopped in the car and drove 17 hours to Savannah, Georgia, with 5,000 beers stored in the basement of my fraternity. And no plans to pick up the other 5,000, and not knowing what at all was going on with the world and our events. So I pretty much told Mikey, I said, Mikey, I'm MIA. You got to figure out the other 5,000.
So you split the responsibility.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. So I had the first 5,000 in my fraternity house, and then Mikey had to deal with the second 5,000.
So Michael, what did you do?
I don't know if U-Haul, if this is really allowed, but got a U-Haul, packed them in there, brought it to my home in Dundas, so about an hour and a half drive. And then me, my dad, and my two sisters did a little assembly line, and my garage was just filled with beers for a few weeks there. So my parents had to park the car outside, but they didn't mind.
You know why? You're laughing now, but when you watch Unwritten Stories of Significance, Cranklite's episode, you're going to be like, oh my God, what a unique story. And this is real, because it's stories that you've gone through, that's something you've really, really happening, right? We're coming to the, it's true, right? Am I wrong?
No, you're dead right.
No, it's easier to laugh now, but we were not laughing back then.
Yeah.
All right. So we're coming to the end of this segment, all right? And we're going to have you back. But I just want to touch upon something really, really quick before we end the segment. Why is it so important to hang in there really, really fast? Really fast.
To hang in there, because you never know. You never know what's lying around the corner. Just stay in there. Yeah.
Jack, Michael?
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta kind of take your shot and go for it. Because you can either fail or succeed, but it's worth taking that shot for the success.
You got it. And on that note, guys, we're going to be back next week with the other part of the story of Cranklite on Unwritten Stories of Significance. See you next week, guys. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.